If you're looking to make serious money from Airbnb, there are 7 powerful lessons I learned in my 16 years on the platform that have helped my clients make over $1 billion in bookings. So in this video, I'm going to show you what these lessons are and how to use them to make way more money, way quicker, and with 10 times less stress. And we're going to start with the first lesson that I wish that I'd known about. And this is the biggest Airbnb lie that we are told. In the first year of me being back in the family business, it felt like I was working 70 hours a week with no way to get any time off. I even remember having to change bedding at 11 p.m. on a Sunday because the cleaner cancelled on me and we had to check in the very next day. This was far from the dream that I was sold when I came back into the family business. So lesson number 1 is one of the most important for all new hosts. Don't believe the lies that this Airbnb gurus will try and sell you, which is passive income. Now listen, don't get me wrong. There are some ways that you can make Airbnb require less of your time, and I'll show you that later in the video, but in the early days, it is a grind. But that's what makes the financial rewards so worth it for those hosts that can push through that first phase, which brings me on to the second lesson. In the early days on Airbnb, some of my clients at Boostly were spending $2,000 on furniture. They were hiring expensive cleaning staff and wasted days finding the best Wi-Fi and the property amenities. But they were still stuck and they weren't getting any bookings. And then one day, instead of spending more money and time improving their actual properties, we got the clients to do something completely different. We suggested a simple change to their title based on what their potential guests were searching for and replacing those 5 dark, dingy pictures on the listings with 5 clear, professionally shot ones. It felt like somebody had just poured petrol on their fire and the Airbnb bookings exploded. So that's when I learned that Airbnb isn't really a property business, it's a conversion business. Future potential guests will never see your property unless you optimize your property photos, your titles, and your reviews. So lesson number 2 is to spend 10 times longer building out a compelling Airbnb listing before you improve your property by spending more money on amenities. And I'm not saying don't care about your property. What I am saying is that you have to play the Airbnb game, which brings me on to lesson number 3. Every version of Airbnb has had its so-called hacks. I've watched thousands of hosts obsess over things like keyword stuffing, rewriting their title every day to constantly tweak their descriptions. These tiny micro edits, hoping to wake up the algorithm. And listen, don't get me wrong, over my time, I've done my fair share of this. But here's what took me years to fully understand. The algorithm is not impressed by the effort you put into developing your listing. It's the outcome of those changes that it cares about the most. Airbnb will reward the listings that get clicked, booked, and reviewed well, because that's what makes Airbnb money, and that is what keeps guests happy. You can tweak things, but you cannot work around poor hospitality. You don't win because you're clever. You win because the guests leave thinking that was easy or that was clean. Trust is that one thing that most hosts ignore until they leave it too late and the bookings have slowed right down. Now, if you're new to Airbnb, these are the sort of mistakes you really want to avoid doing, as it can cost your business early on. I made them. My clients have made them, and fixing them early can save you years of frustration. So let's break those down next. Most beginner hosts don't fail because their property is bad. They fail because they underestimate the workload. They think hosting is as simple as hand over the keys, collect the money, and repeat. Now that illusion lasts right up until something goes wrong, and the work isn't in place to handle those issues. So hosting without systems is like operating a restaurant with no prep. On a quiet Tuesday, that feels fine. You're cooking, you're serving, you're cleaning, you're chatting to the customers. But the moment it gets busy, everything falls apart. Orders get missed, food comes out late, customers get frustrated. And it's not because the food is bad, it's because there are no systems behind it. Now, Airbnb works exactly the same way. One booking is manageable, but 5 back-to-back bookings without a system is pure chaos. Hosting is not about reacting to problems. It's about preventing them before they exist. And the real difference between a 5-star host and a burnt out host is almost always the systems have in place. Clear check-in processes, cleaner backups, automated messages, and rules that stop problems early are the reason why newcomers get startled in the early days and didn't anticipate, thinking Airbnb is just a great way to make some money easily and quickly. Without systems, every booking steals your time. If you don't build systems early, Airbnb doesn't cost you time, it costs you energy, consistency, and eventually your motivation. Creating unhappy guests is an absolute killer, and your Airbnb listing and lesson 4 is a very easy way to create those unhappy guests. So a pattern I learned over time is that guests will forgive quirks, but they won't forgive missing basics. So staying in an Airbnb without good Wi-Fi or proper cookware is like checking into a hotel where that shower works, but only sometimes. Nothing is technically broken, but the whole stay just feels wrong. The guest doesn't complain about the appearance or the style. They just think, why is this even a problem? Well, that frustration sticks, and it could be the reason why your guests aren't rushing to give you a good review. Fast Wi-Fi, comfortable beds, usable kitchenware, or even a coffee station aren't nice extras. They're the most basic things a guest should be given the moment they enter. And even when hosts manage to conquer this, it usually leads to the next mistake. Let me ask you this. If Airbnb disappeared tomorrow, would your business survive the week? Relying on Airbnb alone is like running a shop inside somebody else's building, where they control the rent, the foot traffic, the rules, and whether the door stays open. You don't get a vote. You just get the consequences. When all of your income comes from one platform, you're exposed to algorithm changes, account suspensions, regulation shifts, and demand swings you can't control. And any of those things can wipe you out overnight, even if you've done nothing wrong. This is because these changes affect 100% of your business because it's your only channel. This is why the smart hosts build the buffer, not to replace Airbnb, but to protect themselves from it. That means being on multiple platforms, capturing repeat guests, and having a simple direct booking option with this strategy. The goal isn't more bookings. The goal is a business that doesn't disappear when somebody else changes the rules. And once you move past platform dependency, a different kind of mistake starts to show. If you stopped hosting tomorrow, would anyone even remember your name? Most hosts who have been here for a while don't realize this, but after years of hosting, they've built something valuable. But it's not just for themselves. They have trained the guests to remember Airbnb, not them. It's like running a restaurant where every customer thinks Uber Eats is the chef. If you rely entirely on the online travel agents, you're not building a business, you're renting shelf space inside someone else's brand. Now that captures income, and it keeps you replaceable. The hosts who win long-term, they build an identity beyond the platform, a name that guests remember, a reason to return, a way to book without starting from scratch every time. That's how hosting turns into a real business, because the platform changed. And when that happens, the hosts with a recognizable brand adapt. The rest will just disappear. Understanding what's actually working right now and where Airbnb is heading next. But after 16 years, if there's one thing that beats everything else, it's this. A great property with mediocre hosting gets booked once. A decent property with exceptional hosting gets booked forever. I've seen luxury homes with designer furniture struggle, and I've seen average apartments booked solid for years. The difference was never the building, it was how the guest felt during the stay. So exceptional hosting creates repeat guests, referrals, glowing reviews, higher nightly rates, long-term stability. And that's not luck, that's just hospitality. Hospitality starts when you stop thinking like an investor and start thinking like a guest. You walk into your own place and immediately notice confusing check-in, bad lighting, missing basics, friction at every step. And you fix those before a guest complains, because things will go wrong. A heater will break, the Wi-Fi will drop, or a lock will jam. These situations are where poor hosts delay, but the great hosts protect the experience. If you act fast and communicate clearly, you make the guest stay feel protected. That's how you turn a 1-star situation into a 5-star review. It's how you build a business that lasts, not by being perfect, but by handling imperfection better than anyone else. And if you understand this, you're already ahead of most hosts. The gold rush is over, but the opportunity is still huge for the hosts who get this right. So if you're starting your Airbnb journey now, here's this takeaway. You're not late, you just can't be lazy. The opportunity is still huge for hosts who treat this like a real hospitality business. If you nail your listing, price with strategy, build systems, and deliver unforgettable stays, you'll be one of the few hosts who survive long enough to look back and say, 16 years in, I get it now. And at the end of the day, this industry isn't getting harder, it's just getting more honest. So be sure to watch the next video on the screen where I'll show you 7 fixes you can make to your Airbnb listing today to boost your bookings overnight.